I think the biggest mistake we make as practitioners is really thinking too much of ourselves. I think there still are a vast number of people in our business that think it's all about them versus all about assisting the customer.
We don't have enough respect for our clients. I think the clients are put upon because you go to the meeting and you schmooze the guy or the woman and everything's cool, and then you go back and talk about them. Did you hear what he said? She's gonna be really bad. How are we gonna get around? You better pay attention. This day and age, you better love your clients because they got the bucks. They're the only people with any money. Where would you be if you didn't get paid for what you did?
I think when we make mistakes, I think we make them probably mostly, and our gravest errors are in not understanding the human aspect of it. We either haven't done a good enough job to find out how we should be talking to those people, to talking to that group, understanding them, reaching them.
The internet's changed the world. Social media will change the world. Mobile media is changing the world. Email is obviously changing the world. Look at the post office scenario. Post office can't do what they used to do anymore because it's been replaced largely by email. And those are all amazing tools, but you cannot use them to replace face-to-face communication.
So now I think what I've learned in being a better communicator is to be quiet and to be still, and to learn, maybe what the situation needs rather than me dictating to the situation. And I think that's where companies and other communicators go wrong, is that they will dictate their wants to somebody that they're trying to elicit a response from, rather than finding out what that other person has to say about what they desire.
That we, whether we're designers, communicators of any kind, we really have to understand the difference between our problem, our task, and the client's concern.
As a group, I see the biggest mistake being that the different parts of the communications process works in these silos. The separatist attitude between some of the disciplines has made it more difficult for others included in this process, and it's made it not as beneficial for our clients in the process. So the lack of approach of trying to play well with others, whether you're in a marketing firm or you're an advertising firm or you're a PR agency or a design shop or if you're a web developer, whomever you are, as a part of this process, it's trying to be a little less territorial, trying to be a little more looking at it for the client's benefit. That nice client who seems fit to invest good dollars and their trust with us to help them speak to their markets.
I've found in the last 8 years working for the conference, really tension among a number of the firms we've had to work with, because they just don't understand what it's really like to work in an environment where it's all done by consensus, it's all collaboration, and often you cannot control what your partners do. You jolly them along, you try to encourage them. If you give them clear enough, concise enough, creative enough communications tools, it's amazing what you can get people to do in a spirit of partnership. But getting to that point can be a very painful process.
I think a mistake is thinking that you can accomplish your goals with just one medium. In today's world, there's a mix. 20 years ago, you could have satisfied your whole campaign and were able to reach all of your customers with a television campaign. Today, you need TV's a part of that, could be a part of that, but you need much more to reach the same number of people because they're consuming media in many different ways.
Probably overcomplicating the message. Looking at it too deeply maybe sometimes, where I think less can be more. Maybe a simpler approach, depending how it's, message is positioned to customers or clients. I think maybe an overcomplication of that is somehow leads to confusion or problems.
I think at the beginning and sort of finding out, like, not necessarily like how much money they want to spend or what they want to do or how they want to, but really just sort of figuring out like what the best way is to get their point across, I think, from the get-go before you waste a lot of time and energy.
A lot of times businesses will shortchange the research just because of budget. And there are so many ways to do the research. And I talked about getting in the target audience's shoes and really understanding the target audience. If you don't have the time or the budget to do all the research, there are lots of different ways to do research to get that mindset, to really understand that target audience within the budgets that you can have. And to shortchange that really is just being lazy, to not take that time to do that research.
I think first, we tend not to occasionally make the right insights or have the right insights. And when you don't have the right insights through research or at least doing some sort of secondary research, if you can't afford primary methods, I think it's when you don't have the insights, you don't have the understanding, and then you don't really gather that meaningful, unique selling proposition. The second piece is I think sometimes that the mechanism or the execution can overpower the message. And what I mean by that is sometimes the creative or the method that we use to get the message across can get in the way of the actual message and confuse the customer.
I think there's that constant pressure with the client to hear what they have to say, and you have to listen, but that the client isn't necessarily the end all. It's that constant being on the edge between keeping the client happy and yet doing what needs to be done. Oftentimes the client is not looking at the big picture because they're so enmeshed. They have the blinkers on, and they're working really hard to try to take themselves out of that and look objectively at their own business. But it's difficult, if not impossible, to do it.
Where I think it could be tightened a bit is really how it supports the business's agenda and whatever that business milestone is, whether it's awareness, conversion rate, and really being able to speak directly to how the communication plan that's being presented is going to impact those key attributes.
I think it's that we don't make enough mistakes. I think it's that we don't take risks, that we don't push, that we don't fail forward. We don't find out what is working, but more importantly, we don't find out what's not working quickly. And there's an aversion, there's a fear that we operate under a lot. And I think any business operates under that to some degree or another. But yeah, I would say that the fear of failure is a mistake.
The chances that we take are leveled off because we have to be concerned with money, with our clients' approvals, with whatever purpose they're doing this project for. And really the greatest work, I think, are the times where you can almost accept failure. You're taking a chance, you're really putting it out there. And so it lends itself to a lot of mediocrity.
Doing the same old, seriously.
The biggest mistake I see happening is when someone will get locked into a concept. And I have seen so many corny ideas that we've been involved in, and they're solely because someone liked the idea and just assumed it would transpose to an audience. And if you're dealing with an audience that's 65 years old and they're worried about health care, they're worried about some heart problem or something, some teenage appropriate idea frequently doesn't work, and we see that all the time.
I think the easiest mistake to trap yourself into is to be looking for the solution you want to do and apply it to whatever it is that's brought to you as a challenge just because you want to do it.
I think the first one is that we get caught up in with what we think is cool or we think is wow, we think is happening from a digital perspective, coming in and saying, I saw this is neat and let's do it. And not really thinking about what the audience needs. A lot of people come to me and want to do a cool flash piece when really all they need is a sales flyer. They need a printed piece of material.